Hi, good morning. Today we've got Rajashree Rao, who is a multifaceted personality who's played multiple roles across many regions. She's currently the head of partnerships at RollsRoyce R2 Labs and an innovation leader. She has held leadership roles in Intel, SAP, and a lot of other companies. Previously, she's worked very closely with the Singapore government in driving new gen technologies. She's a thought leader, keynote speaker, and has been a highly acclaimed top leader as a part of the Thinkers 360 ratings consistently more than once. We have here today who brings a rich experience into this talk, and we will be talking to her on her experience in driving innovation in companies and how you can create an innovative partnership that can solve third world problems. And I think we are in the stage of COVID-19, which has exposed a lot of inadequacies in the public partner ecosystem, and how we can use innovation effectively to drive and find solutions to these ills. So welcome, Rashi, to this talk, and it'll be great to have your perspective on how you have been driving innovation all along. So I think before that, if you could quickly tell us about your journey into tech and how you ended up where you are. It'll be quite interesting to get through that journey as well.
Um, Hi, very good morning. Thank you, Kiran. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. And yes, an interesting question. So I have 20 plus years of industry experience working for IBM, Intel, SAP, and have done consulting, independent consulting in the emerging technologies. So worked in India, US, and APAC region. Extensively also with Singapore government and public sector driving the smart nation initiatives again across APAC. In 2019, I just decided finally when I asked what is it next I want to do, and my heart said go back home. So that's when I decided to come back to India and then get my journey started here as a growth market and also the next innovation destination. I said it's the right time to give back to my own homeland and work along along the global leaders across and bring leverage all that I've learned and also leverage right now where I'm working and see what is it we can do globally. So that was my intent. Most important, what is it I can do in India as well, where there is so much of potential for innovation to happen. It's the current innovation destination. With that thought, yes, one thing that I will say is just to give a very small story how I did arrive here. Um, um, okay, my education is I'm a BCom graduate, so I've done business management. Yes, and I'm an MBA dropout. Did my three times tried to do part time and also tried to sign, get into full time. But my dream was to get my MBA from Harvard, which didn't happen. But nevertheless, I started. Started my journey in my career with IBM, and then decided, yeah, sometime in life I will do it. But as I evolved, it was very interesting. Though I was from a business management, but working in a technology organization, my passion for technology grew by the day, and I was very excited about working on technology and how it could transform the way we live, work, and do things in our world. So more and more as I was evolving in the journey, through IBM, where I held different roles, diverse roles across business functions, I it became very clear to me that I want to be the technology person. But there was one challenge and a bottleneck in my life, and that was not me, but that was more from the perception of how world perceived the non-engineering folks working in an organization, where they always said, oh, you mean nothing. If you're not an engineer, then they don't value you. So that's how the tech world used to look at people many years ago. It's not so much the company or any organization, it's about the people perception. So there was a point in time where I was leading a team of people who were all senior architects, and this was to establish a center of excellence for one of the clients. And at that time, everybody said, "Oh, you're not a techie. You don't understand what this means." So, sort of trying to tell me, "Look, you don't fit this. You don't qualify this because you don't understand, and you're the project leader for the whole project. How would you do that?" But when I demonstrated, look, you don't need to be in engineering to understand technology. Technology should be able, you need to be able to explain technology even to a 5-year-old. That is what I've learned much later, and I'll come to that. So for me, it was the biggest shock because how people perceived was not it was not appropriate. So somewhere in my subconscious mind, I also gave in to the fact that, oh, I'm not a technical person, I am not an engineering person, which means I don't understand technology is the message my mind took it. So that's how it also perceived. And subconsciously, that was somewhere impacted. Not, I didn't realize that until a fine day. And then, yeah, I demonstrated my capability. I was successful in executing that particular project. And yes, and then what happened was at a point in time when I was driving the Smart Nation initiatives for Singapore government, and I know when IoT was the fad word, there was something that was not going right. See, I was hands on. You're working on the ground, you understand the challenges, you're trying to solve a certain problem, you're trying to come up with some solutions. And at that time, I realized there is one huge gap and lacuna in this, in the way the whole thing has been laid out. One thing, that the one lacuna was there was no standardization of protocol at that moment in time. So you cannot, every service provider gave certain protocols, but that standardization didn't happen. Then how am I going to be able to establish that smart city, right? It's not the bottoms up, it has to be, sorry, it's not the tops down, it has to be bottoms up. So you always have to do ground zero and then go up for anything that you want to come build, right? So I saw this gap very distinctively, and also it was quite strong to me. It was very obvious. But the problem was, not people around me would want to listen to me. I was very just small, according to them, I was just a small fish in this ocean, and who's going to listen to the small voice? It was not. At that moment in time, my preceptor said something very interesting: why don't you just write about it? Yeah, you're working with the biggest power, the government, the corporates, and so many different people. Of course, they don't want, you can't tell them that they are wrong, or you can't tell them there's something that they're doing is not in the right manner. I didn't say they're wrong, the approach is wrong. First, you have to lay down certain, the foundation has to be strong if you want to build something. And that is what I was pointing out. If you're going to build something on a weak foundation, then it will collapse and fall. So that was the whole point. And at that time, when he said, why don't you write? And that is when it hit me hard. My first reaction was, I'm not a technical person. I'm not an engineering background. How will I be able to write a technology article? That is when I realized, oh my God, it is what people you know thought about me, or
Perceive, yeah.
yeah, people perceive me. That's what has somewhere subconsciously impacted, and I have accepted that. And to me, that was a bigger shocker. And then it took a long time for my preceptor to convince that, no, look, if I'm able to, work in a technology organization for 13 and a half years, and then now with so many different organizations, and I'm doing so many different things, he said, no, you can, right? So I couldn't get convinced, and I see how it can affect a person. And there was one other person in my life who I really like to call out. It was one of my mentors, and at one point he said this to me. He's an IBM fellow, and he said to me, Raj, you know what? You stop saying this, you're a non-techie. You're working for a technology organization and you are into sales role. You influence technology. So please remember, we are two sides of the same coin. If what we build, if there is nobody to go and sell about it and talk about it, how is this technology going to be taken to the market, and how are we going to sell? Then there is no use, or there's no role for people like us to play.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was a very important lesson. And then what my preceptor did to bring me out from that nutshell was, he wrote my first article to be
So he ghost
published
wrote
on
it for you.
LinkedIn.
He
Sorry?
ghost wrote it for, he ghost wrote your
No,
article.
he did write. He did write
Huh.
my first article, which is called The
Okay.
Achilles Heel. And he said,
Okay.
go publish this, he said,
Okay.
and only to bring that confidence in me. And then when I went and published and then said next two articles, he did help me a bit. He said, no, you do the research and you come back. And after that, he said, now you need to write. You need to write. Then I said, look, when my preceptor, he's also my spiritual master, when he's so much telling me, I need to obey to him. And at that moment in time, I went and studied. He told me, go look at how people write. You'll be able to understand and you'll come up with it. And there was one person he pointed out, a professor from Stanford. Stanford. He said he's one of my first connections. He said, go just check him out. And then when I went and understood how he teaches, how he writes, it was a eureka moment for me at that moment in time. And because I
Correct.
was I have also worked in Marcom. I have done this in my company for my managing director and the entire, as part of the comms, you write articles, you write mails, you do so many things. So he said, you've
Correct.
already done this. It's not something new for you. And then it was a eureka moment. And at that time, I said, okay, now I can. And I went and did exactly what he asked me to do. And that article, it was on transportation. I can't remember the title of that article, but that really got a huge hit on my LinkedIn. And everybody literally wrote back, wow, this is like phenomenal. And first, before I even published it, I sent a proofread to my preceptor. And he just called me in frantically, did you really write this? This is like a New York Times piece you've written. So to me, that was my eureka moment to break out of that shell. So the point I'm driving home here is it's not easy to get to anything without your own self effort, and don't go by other people's opinion of what they feel, what they don't feel. Till you don't try, till you don't dirty your hands, and till you don't make an effort, you don't understand the kind of potentials and the capabilities that you have within yourself.
Yeah,
So this
perfect.
is my journey to arrive today where I am. And since then, after giving so many different pieces, I have my website. You can go check out my articles.
Yeah,
It's called techkutzpa.com.
yeah.
And
I
I
checked that.
was
Yeah.
chosen by the Thinkers 360, which is a community of global thought leaders, as one of the top 50 global thought leaders and influencers in emerging technologies like AI, cloud computing, blockchain, IoT, AR, VR, 5G, ecosystem and emerging technology itself, and consistently for the last few years, and also been chosen, recognized as a top 50 and 100 women leaders, B2B women leaders to be followed in 2020, 2021, and many other recognitions from then on.
Sure, sure. I think that's phenomenal. I think from what you said, I mean, absolutely not being able to find words to pen or being in a quandary about what to do, and then establishing yourself as a thought leader. I think you've come a long way in that. I think one interesting part about what you said was what would be your top lessons from the smart cities work that you did for the government of Singapore, as you said, because you said the thinking has to come from the grounds up because there's lack of uniform standards when you're trying to implement stuff. So how did you kind of work around that, and how did you nudge all the parties involved and get things going? Because smart cities is like a huge mammoth project with public partners and so many people involved, industry, and so many different vendors in the ecosystem. So how do you get your say in that noisy world?
A very interesting question. Okay. So in 2014, Singapore government announced Singapore to become the test bed for making the nation a smart nation, and they kicked off with a lot of initiatives. Literally, every function they had an industry body. They have IDA, which is now known as IMDA. Everybody had a different function to start off, and they also set up the Smart Nation Program Office. Now all these were laid out, but one thing that was missing was, first you need to go and do your found the research work. Research is to understand, okay, if I want to make my city or a nation smart, what are the different things that I need to do? That is number one. You need to lay down your the vision.
The reference architecture or the building block
Oh, see,
question.
yeah, the reference architecture is one aspect, but first of all, you need to go research where am I today, currently. Okay,
Okay, okay,
so you need to understand where am I and what is that I'm going to head at. See, we have lofty vision. Just writing the vision doesn't help achieve anything, right? It's still
correct.
words. But this is where I am. This is what I want to be. But then you need to take a real reality check as to what is that I have, like what are the different things, and what are the current challenges that exist within that framework, or that even the structure, everything that you have today. And to build something that I'm envisioning, what are the things that I need to do? And for that doing, who are the parties involved, whether it is technology, whether it is infrastructure, whether it is public, the public sector folks, who are the different stakeholders who are required for this. And then most important is they should have first formed a consortium, and that was not done. So you need to make a consortium, you need to bring a consortium, you need to have the regulation in place, the folks who are part of the regulative authorities, and then you should go ahead with the planning. So even without doing, if you're working in silos, how do you think anything is going to happen? So that itself was the biggest lacuna in the system, because you're trying to work with one function whom you have given the authority, and that function is trying to liaison with the public sector folks like Ministry of Healthcare or Land Transport
Correct.
Authority of Singapore, or different public sector functions, but they themselves independently have their own agenda. So these two were not in agreement in the first place. So where is the question of then things going to work out? So the siloed approach is never going to work out. You can't make a smart nation initiative with people working independently, not looking eye to eye, and they're doing the same different tasks. I'll give an example. There was a very interesting RFP that came up with Singapore Police Force, which was to have in Singapore you have a lot of cameras, so they wanted to make the cameras highly encrypted. And since I was also I was an account manager and a client, large account enterprise client representative for all the government accounts, the major, the sorry, the sorry, what the word I'm
Large deals or something.
yeah, no, the large deals as well, and also the they say the top accounts, right? the
Okay, okay.
the focused accounts. Now for that, when I was the large and account enterprise head, what happened was I was working with the LTA. Now they came up with a project called the smart street lighting project. Now they were also trying to do the same thing what the Singapore police force is doing, which is trying to get more data, highly encrypt and all that. But why should both do the same thing and work independently in silos? So I was the bridge between bringing these folks together and say, can you collaborate, because your budget is there, your budget is there. Can you make this to doing something much bigger rather than trying to doing in your individual capacity and achieving the same task for two different public sector functions, rather than make it centralized and focused where you can achieve far greater, you can do a lot far greater things in the same budget, because you're
Correct.
merging. And then they saw value in what I said. But till the time I didn't go work with them, I didn't go work independently with Singapore Police Force or LTA, both of them didn't even know that this project they're trying to work out. So this is the kind of silos that people are working with, where they're not collaborating. Everybody's independently handling their own function. So that itself is a big gap in the system. And yeah, so I could only make a difference to that extent, but beyond that, it is for them to go out of that focused and think big and see a possibility of bringing everybody together and for achieving a bigger goal, a lofty goal that they have. But if they were going to work in this siloed manner, how do you think we can make the nation a smart nation? That initiative is still going to fall short, and it's not going to take off as envisioned.
Oh, okay, okay, perfect. I think this is a classic problem about the problem of silos, which I'm part of the Digital India initiatives in India, wherein we've got a framework called IND-EA, which is India Enterprise Architecture. And as you said perfectly, this is the situation that different states have different budgets for doing almost the same thing. And there's so much of silos that you're duplicating efforts,
Yes.
wasting money on the ground, and
Right.
you are doing the same thing by calling it different names. Why
Yes.
can't you have a centralized approach by bringing all
Correct.
the parties involved
Yeah.
at a common pipeline, and then you're trying to augment your efforts and rationalize the spend there. So that's, I think, classic problem. And I did chance upon your talk somewhere that you said, South Korea, as we know, is one of the people look forward to it as the ideal smart city government initiative. So what do you think? I'm not sure if you have the visibility to what really happened there or something, but why do you think it really succeeded in such a small country like South Korea, which is known for its perfect ideal smart city initiatives and end to end? They rank very high on the index of having the best government enterprise architectures the world over. So do you have any thoughts on why that could have happened because of your involvement in the APAC region with regard to all of these
Okay,
issues?
I can give you certain points, obviously, because it's been a long time since I, led that work that I was doing, and then
Okay.
back. I can only talk about back a few years ago. See, South Korea, one of the initiative that they were very focused on the 5G network. That and if you know that Samsung has already, like, they're already working on the 6G network as well. And they're
Correct.
way ahead in the research. They've already written a paper on that. It's quite inspiring. And it's nice to see how they are taking the lead and doing some things. And especially when they were organizing, I think, the Olympics at that time, they kind of tested the 5G, and trying to make it how does the 5G network work, and how do they make the whole infrastructure available on a 5G. But also coming back is that the why I say South Korea is ahead of the game is they are able to bring this blend of working with everybody, not that siloed approach. The first gap in the system which exists within every country or every region is about working silos. Forget about even country right, even in the corporate world, if you look at one business function is not going to talk to another business function, and everybody has their own KPIs. Yes, you are there for your KPIs, but you need to collaborate. And if you don't co-innovate and co-create, then the innovation doesn't happen. That is why there is always a lacuna in the way the innovation happens. And that is one of the topics that I champion. And how you need to have a solution or any technology, it has to be interoperable. And if you don't have an interoperable technology capability, then nothing that you do means anything, because it's only for a short span in time, or only for that moment in time, and for the particular infrastructure. If your technology is not able to interoperable, it's not interoperable, and it cannot, it's not a plug in and play model, then there is definitely a gap. So that is something we need to keep in mind. But if you look at South Korea, they have gone ahead and at least have been able to certain extent achieve that, break that barrier and achieve that goal of working with different public sector functions and trying to integrate that systems that they have. So that is a first step. I don't know the challenges. They also, I'm sure they have their own challenges that they are, which for due to which they're falling short of certain developments. But I definitely see they're definitely ahead in the game.
Yeah, yeah, true. I
And
think
that's one country. But if you look at there's few other cities or countries, they are also today doing a lot of things to be ahead of the game in making their cities smart. But also, smart city doesn't mean we have to increase our technology expense, right? The cost of implementing a technology should not go high. I'll give you a
true.
very simple example. If you take smart homes, we have been talking smart homes. Oh, I want the moment I walk in, the light should come on, the sensor should read it, or my gate should automatically open by reading, that I'm coming in, or the light should turn off just to make sure that it's cost effective. But do you think the implementation cost of this technology is cheaper? No, it is not. It's quite expensive. And number two, the thing is, if it's a high maintenance, if something goes wrong, then who am I running behind? So these are the things we were talking about. Whatever the development is happening, it has to be cost effective. See, why are we innovating or co-innovating? Three important objectives that we want to achieve. One is increasing productivity and efficiency. Second is reducing the cost, cost reduction. And third is value and impact to the business. So these are the three parameters. And fourth, I will say customer, and is enhanced customer satisfaction, or you're also giving more value. It's like customer driven. What the customer wants, that's what I'm trying to cater to. So these are the four things is the goal, primary motivation behind anything that we are doing today in our world, the developments that we have. But if the cost factor itself is going high, then I don't think we're doing justice to what we are talking about. And the last most important, the fifth thing that I always champion and I keep saying, technology has to be inclusive, it cannot be exclusive.
Yeah, it has to be at scale. The benefit should be there for
Yes.
a larger
So
population.
scalability is a quite an
And
important factor. And not
correct.
technology again doesn't mean it's only urban dwellers can access technology. It has to be inclusive. When I say inclusive, it has to be everybody included in that. Otherwise, my technology has no role to play.
Yeah, okay. I think that's well said. So, what do you think is? I see that you've been talking a bit about the open innovation framework in a lot of your engagements. So, can you explain how that really works? So, obviously, innovation cannot work in a vacuum. It has to be a collaborative effort. So, what are your thoughts on? Is it something that you championed yourself and brought it to fruition, and it's your own baby that you incubated, or it has got a lot of elements of some standard frameworks? So what actually is open innovation framework that can help the growth spiral in companies and ecosystems?
Sure, I'll talk through that. So open innovation framework is nothing but it is what I call it is partnership innovation model, which is based on the open innovation framework. So, what is open innovation? Open innovation is that which I am leveraging the entire industry players available in the market, the creme de la creme, best of everybody, and doing a co creation and co innovation. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, which means there's already someone who's developed that particular solution or technology in some capacity. Can I go find this individual company, whoever they are, and collaborate with them and jointly come up with that enhanced solution which I want to address some of the business problem that I have, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel? Why do I have to build a team, try to make them go through that, the journey of building from scratch and losing time, money, everything, rather than trying to leverage already what is existing? And that too, we need to go after something, the creme de la creme. That's something I keep talking about. That's the word that I'm emphasizing. You have to get the best of the breed that is in the market and bring that to address your business problem. So what people are doing is, even in this model, people are just going after startups, trying to solve again something which is near term or short term. Nobody's thinking about long term. See, innovation, who is an innovator? First of all, again, I go backward. I'm asking, who is an innovator? An innovator is a visionary who can think beyond his own lifespan. And if you cannot think beyond your own lifespan, then you're not innovating. It is not 5 years or 10 years that you need to think about. You have to think about 50 years or 100 years from now, when you're dead and gone. You don't even have to exist, but the world has to still leverage what you built. The next 100 years, it has to go on minimum. Now, I would give an example of Steve Jobs. See, if not for Steve Jobs, today the app world wouldn't even have come into existence. The smartphones is because of Steve Jobs. So he was an innovator. He gave the world which nobody could envision, nobody even dreamt or thought. Today he has made, in this pandemic, we need to be thankful to him, because if not for him, these platforms wouldn't have come, right? So he was an instrument in coming up with the FaceTime, and then they built on top of that innovation. That's what I would call. So that is innovation to me. Today, people again have abused this word innovation, because everybody thinks just coming up with an idea is an innovation. No, innovation means you have to give the world which is going to benefit from everybody. See, today, even in a village, if you go, they can do a WhatsApp video call, or they can do a FaceTime call. Okay, they might not have Apple phones, doesn't matter, but at least they can have a smartphone. Today, smartphones have become affordable again because of one innovator. So at least they're doing WhatsApp video call, and it is free available today. So that is what he's done. So which is, does it cover everything? Inclusive, interoperable, it's scalable. So that is what an innovation means. All that factors have been factored in, rather fitted in. So that is exactly what we have to think through. So you can't think through just from a near term or a short term. You have to think more from a long term and very futuristic. And if you can't think futuristic, then you're not innovating. So let's not fool ourselves. See, and there is four different kinds of innovation. There's four parameters that exist. One is, sorry, I kind of forgot the term. You're doing it's a continuous. There are different. One is the radical innovation, there is sustainable, and there is disruption. The first one is what I'm not getting the term, but it is something that you do on a continuous basis. So that is everybody who does it. Every organization is
Incremental innovation.
Incremental innovation. Thank you for the word. So it's
Okay.
incremental innovation. So when I have a software that I've developed, I'm constantly enhancing it. That is something given. Now, the radical innovation is something which is inside out, which means I'm coming up with something new in house I'm developing, and I'm going to give the world which will disrupt the world, which the world would have never imagined or expected. And I'll come back to sustainable later. The next one is disruption. Disruption is something from outside in. Example could be Uber. Example could be all these food delivery apps, Swiggy, Zomato, too many different things, and every country has their own. Swiggy and Zomatos, right? I'm only talking about the Indian world. And if you take in Singapore, GrabCab made a breakthrough. So like the different or even the hotel industry, Airbnb disrupted the whole, how the hotel business runs. So that is outside in. So I have to be able to that's outside in, that is disruptive innovation. And then comes sustainable innovation, which is a 50 of both radical and disruption, which means I'm going to I'm going to give the world something that I will build in-house and give the world, and also leverage what is outside in as well. So this is a blend of both. So that's a very good position to be in, where you're leveraging the best of the both the worlds. Now these are the four blocks in which everybody can only fall under these four parameters. You can't go outside this four quadrant. But how do you want to achieve that, and what are your organizational goals? That is something you need to be very clear with. So you cannot just say I'm innovating and trying to come up with some stupid thing without even having a knowledge about the industry. Who is your target market? Why are you even doing that? And without any of these understanding, you just want to say this is addressing this business problem, this is doing this. But where is the innovation, or where is the key objectives that I spoke about that is doing in that? So today, if you look at it, we have about, I think, we are more than 62,000 plus startups in India. At least, yeah, 62,000 plus startups in India. Out of which we have about 8,500 deep tech startups. Out of that, I'm only interested in working with 100 creme de la creme. Rest everybody are just like a noise to me, and who just want to say, look, I exist. But what are you actually driving? So that you need to bring value to the business and the world. If you're not doing that, then there is no justice happening. Because today this whole fad is that, oh, if you just address them, earlier it was IoT, blockchain, and now it is AI. Now every organization say I'm an AI startup, and then you'll get funding. So it's not about that. What is your goal? That you have to give something to the world. And one most important element which I again missed calling out, and that is the sustainability factor. And today, anything that you build, if it doesn't have a sustainability goal in that, then you're not doing innovation at all.
Yeah. I think that brings me to the next question. When you said that when you don't need to reinvent the wheel, you need to integrate the pieces in the ecosystem. So how do you see this challenge of different guys coming with different interoperability challenges, like the best of the breed solutions when you're trying to integrate them? So there's a huge amount of integration effort that could be there, because an Apple authentication doesn't seamlessly do the same way like a Windows authentication or an Android authentication. So the protocols are different. So how do you think that can be addressed? So is that innovation, or is that integration, or how do people get that around typically?
I
Because
think
it's
that's
easy to say that you can bring these different co-partners together, but then the huge amount of integration efforts involved. So what do you think we should be doing there?
it's a very good question. See, of course, there is a huge integration issue, and that is why I'm telling every startup, whatever they're developing, they always need to think, okay, I can work with any corporate. See, they're always going to go
Correct,
sell to
correct.
someone. They want to work with some of these corporates, right? Why? Because they want to co-create or co-innovate, and that's the new norm. It's been existing, but we have not been so successful, but in the future we will be successful. Which is what they have to focus. Now, one of the things that I keep talking to startups and telling, no matter what technology you choose, you need to make it interoperable. It has to be able to integrate with any platform, any API, any technology, any infrastructure, both back end, whatever you want, middleware, you name it. So you have to make your architecture in such a robust manner that it is interoperable with, and it integrates with any platform and technology. That's number one. And if you're not doing that, and if you're doing it for certain customer, you have to be able to again make it plug and play, where for certain customer that you need, you are able to just plug in and give them what they want. And that is what you have to build. Now if you don't build a solution like that, then there is going to be a problem. Then your existence in the market might be only a very you're only going to be there for a short period of time. You can't sustain yourself for the next 100 years. To be there for next 100 years, you have to do these things. And so what is your end goal is something that you need to think about.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So I think there's one interesting thing that you mentioned about Steve Jobs having outlived his innovation, things like that. So I'm just reminded about a quick anecdotal experience from my own life. So when he passed away that morning a couple of years ago, I think there was this newspaper saying Steve Jobs no more, Apple founder no more. And then my iPod, which was bought in 2001, was just lying next to that paper. And it was so symbolic. I don't know from where it landed, because it's never there in one place in the home. And that particular day, that iPod was just next to the paper. And he was like, my God, after 20 years, I'm still using it and it works just the way it was on day one. And that's innovation for me, I suppose, because if you use an Android ecosystem, after a couple of updates, the
Yeah,
hardware is out of sync, the software is out of sync, and
right.
you have a lot of issues. But here I had this thing which was working after 20 years, still pristine, fresh, like the way it was on day one, and still working. I think that's a very good thing. And that brings me to my next question, which is innovation a one-man show? Because I remember you talking about it in some places that Apple hasn't innovated too much after the exit of Steve Jobs, typically, and same is the case with Elon Musk and all of these guys who try to be on the innovation spiral. So, what really is the secret sauce for continuing that innovation framework or the mindset within an organization even after the founder has long gone away? So, what do you think should be done? Does it happen? Is it molded? Can it be baked into the DNA of an innovative enterprise? Probably it's a tough question, but
No, I will definitely answer that question.
yeah, yeah.
It's also personal experience, and I have to get certain. I have to go slightly little outside of the technology topic to answer that question. See, everybody has a passion and a dream, and everybody's objective in life is very different. So there are only very few visionaries in this world, and I will definitely quote Steve Jobs. And today, if you take the person who existed, you already named him, was Elon Musk, somebody who's constantly doing something or the other. And these people have gone beyond the factor of failures. See, one of the biggest challenge that exists in our world is the fear of failures. I mean, everybody thinks about, oh, I what even before they start, the what they think is, what if I fail? That what if I fail does not allow them to take risk, the risk taking appetite again. And most important is, these people were driven by, see, innovation isn't equal to dollar value or making money. Okay, it's innovation equals to achieving a goal, but see, the money will follow, the success will follow eventually. But if you are focused at saying, this is the dollar value I need to get of doing something right now, then that is the mindset that will kill themselves. So that is the mindset which will kill what you are even trying to do, even before that that has been the chicken, the chicken has been hatched. So you yourself are going to kill that. So in order not to kill that, the goal, that lofty goal, you need to only focus on delivering. You are going to fail a million times. Can you get up and run every single time that you fail? So that kind of, that grit, that strength, and you need that character and knowledge. Most important is knowledge. Today, one of the limitations that we have around us is knowledge. People don't have the right knowledge. I'm talking about the right knowledge. And it's not about saying, okay, I'm an expert in data analytics, I'm an expert in AI. How much are you educating yourself continuously to keep abreast, or to keep on doing that innovation, and for which you have to dedicate your life? And in this regard, I will only call out one person as an example, which I personally experienced. It is Leonardo da Vinci. I was very fortunate to go for one of the museums, which is all the his inventions, everything. It was about what Leonardo da Vinci had done in his life. There was a very beautiful museum curated on his behalf, his life and journey and his inventions, what are his research work, everything that was done. And that time, when I went to this exhibition in Singapore, along with my preceptor made me stand, in the middle of this whole teachings, his inventions, and he just made me, stand there and ask a question. He asked me a question. He said, I want you to just observe everything around and tell me how much time or how much effort has this man put in making these inventions. Then we said, okay, let us go figure out. So my preceptor took me to his history, that they could talk about when he was born, when he died, how much of time he lived in this world. So we did a backward calculation. He said he died in this year, which means he has lived for so many years. Assuming he started his journey in the field of invention, because he has written 10,000 invention with the prototype, and it's a mirror image, which he had written in. So that was powerful. So we calculated backward, even with, I think, a rough figure, even if he started his journey at the age of 16, he has worked day and night, which means minimum 18 hours a day. There was no Saturday, Sunday, there was no holiday. And to achieve something like that, because he's not only given that invention, and also he has developed the 3D prototypes. And most important, he was also a sculptor, he was also a painter, and he has given so many different things. He is a mathematician, he's a scientist, you name it. And everything that he had built at that time, people have much later gone and used those inventions. But he was not recognized when he was alive. He became great after he's dead and gone. But his passion for that knowledge and what he wanted to give the world, he just went on doing without expecting the returns of success or failure. He just did it because he loved what he did. And today, that is what is missing within us. And this is something you cannot, like you said, how do we get the DNA? It has to come from within you. Nobody can give it from outside. And that is
Yes.
called an empowerment. And I also talk in terms, sorry for a slight deviation here. When I say empowerment, it's not just women's empowerment we always talk about, right? The word women comes in when we say empowerment. I'm sorry, there's no women or a man. It's a self empowerment. You have to empower yourself to do something phenomenal that has to come from within you. The burning desire to achieve something spectacular in this world should be your goal. Nobody can give it from outside, unfortunately.
Okay, okay. That's well said, actually, because gives me prelude into my next question, which is about the fact that the Tesla way of innovation, that's Nicholas Tesla, not the Elon Musk Tesla, Nicholas Tesla way of innovation and Thomas Alva Edison way of innovating stuff. So Tesla was like a one-man genius like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, and he had thousands of patents around him. And Edison was a smart businessman who put an incubator with smart brains in it and help them create an ecosystem wherein you are actually thriving in an innovative culture that flourished and created a lot of ideas, including the bulb and all. We all think that it was Edison who created the bulb, but whereas he employed a lot of engineers to get that done. So, how do we trade off between these two extremes? One is you can have a set of people because the other one seems more easier done in a large corporation that the Edison model. The other side is, of course, you have to have that passion. It has to. Nobody can instill that from you outside. So, how do you, from an enterprise standpoint or from an organization standpoint, the Edison model is easier to go with. So, what are your thoughts on that?
You have to leverage best of the both the worlds.
Okay, perfect. I think that's good. So basically, you should have the balance between smart minds and
Yes,
create an ecosystem that helps smart minds thrive.
yes.
I think that's. And what, according to you, is actually digital transformation? Because you talk to a lot of industry, academia, public partner people. So, what, in your opinion, is it's an abused and used word, you having its own different context and scenario. So, what, according to you, is digital transformation? Because you've been driving a lot of such initiatives.
I can give you with an example, name an example. Today, I'll give you with this, though with India has implemented DigiLocker, I'm sure you heard. Now, though this concept has been existing, the implementation and adoption has taken time. But slowly today, the government is centralizing all your, official documents, which is required in a DigiLocker, which is actually quite effective because I have everything under my, my phone. I don't have to physically, file it, keep it very carefully, go for the Xerox manual process. Sometimes it just tears off. I lose the documents. And I've recently experienced a classic case in my own family. I'm going to quote this an example and give you how digital transformation will enable or help, seamlessly do a lot of things in a effective manner. My family property documents, some my mom's, the village, we have a small farmhouse, sorry, agriculture land. The property documents was missed somewhere. Now, the one main document which missed, and we are having a challenge because today, without original document, you can't do anything with the property that you have. So there's always a challenge. And even if I want to sell, even if I have the true certified copy, people are still not going to be sure about wanting to buy. So I can't. That's a limitation. Now, had I had the same thing in a digital copy, you think I'm going to face the heartburns and the kind of issues that I had to face with the government bureaucratic departments, where I'm running around having filed an FIR, trying to get a police certificate to get this whole verification. It's taken me more than a year fighting this battle with everybody, trying to give all the documents, and yet people trying to expect certain favors and all sorts of bureaucracies that exist within this world, and also the red tape that we have to contend with. Now, today the digital element is that it makes our life simple. So all this registered, the government official registered documents, if I just have to go, say it is, say example, I yesterday I did download my Aadhaar. The moment I entered my Aadhaar number, my Aadhaar card is right there. Now I did my PAN card number, my PAN card, my ITR returns, everything, form 16 to whatever my ITR is, everything is there. Everything associated my income tax is right there. So like that, right from bank to everything, it's becoming centralized, and they are making it digital. So today, whether I lose my document or not, it doesn't matter to me because everything is digitized. Doesn't that save a lot of time? It does. It saves from people, process, and money. What we are making efficient is, can we use the same people for doing something much better things, rather than making this process oriented issues in digital? Can they do it online? Can they handle it themselves? Why do we need overheads? Why do we need people, the resources, who are the human intelligence, to be wasted in trying to just do process related or admin stuff? Can their strength be leveraged for doing something much better and efficient things in this world? That is how I see digital transformation becoming valuable. So how do you leverage the same is something that you need to understand, and why you are doing, and what is the benefit for the company, people, organization, and the country, something that we all have to look into.
Okay, perfect. That's nice, actually. So you think the land records and all of that should be stored in a digital locker, and
Yes,
that's the way forward.
absolutely. No, and
So
also that will not lead to any illegal
yeah, yeah, the
practices. So it's
encroachments
going
and
to,
all of that
everything
sort
is
of stuff.
going to become legal, and
Correct.
everything is being documented. Today,
Mm.
if you look at a lot of lands are being sold on some false basis. There are no clear titles. There are no certain encumbrance certificates are missing. So many different issues are happening only because we don't have a way to track and monitor legally all of this. So this system, this process, this transformation is going to make life easy.
Correct, correct. I think the adoption of blockchain to the land records will
Yeah.
grossly help a lot of misappropriation and
Yes.
encroachment that's rampant in India, actually. And
Yes.
so that's really awesome. So, but I think the government also has to step up their efforts to get the. I think it's already there. The land
Yeah, it
registry
just
is
began.
being
So I think it
digitized.
will go by phases,
Correct,
because
correct.
every right from banking to central banks, income tax, every public sector offices have to then implement that. So then everything will become online. So all you have to go, we have to provide our details, and everything is then in our DigiLocker.
And Rashmi, one more thing. What do you think is the future of work? COVID-19 has exposed us to a lot of new age ways of working. I mean, people previously thought these were not the accepted norms of working, that people will be efficient. I think people are more efficient. And the downside is employees are complaining that now there is no tea breaks or nothing. You're like one call to another call, you're just hopping one to another. So you're stretched to the limit. So, what do you think would be the new ways of working that post-COVID? What do you think will be? What's going to continue? What will stay? What will not stay? And what do you think would really be the way forward?
Very interesting question. I personally have also been working from home, and I know it's quite challenging because you're just in calls, and I'm not a person who like to sit in front of my computer all the time, because I've always
Correct.
been in client roles, which means I have to travel, I have to meet clients, and
The
there's always,
face-to-face interaction is
yeah,
missing.
face-to-face interaction. So for me, it has been a big, huge challenge, because it's also mentally very stressing. You're becoming not, you're not highly efficient. You sometimes become less productive rather than being productive itself, right? um, because beyond a point you feel bored. How much calls can you stay on, and what are you actually achieving in the call? So that's something is a big challenge. But the way I look at the future of work being is, people will have the flexibility to go office only on need basis when there is face to face meetings. So you can manage, say, 3 days work from home, 2 days work from office. That is going to help you balance. And most important for people like me who are going to be client facing, we might be going 3 days to the client meeting, or even 1 day, 4 days to the client meeting, and 1 day to the office. Or even 1 day you work from home, 1 day you go to 1 day you go to office, and 3 days you have client meetings. So this is the way you have to spread across, and that depends on it. And another element that is going to be transforming is, see, when you're working from home, you're turning off your video due to bandwidth issues. Today there's one big challenge is the bandwidth. Now, how much can you connect all the time online, right? There is a challenge with the network, and like I can't log into my video, be on from my computer, because I always have the network issue. It'll keep dropping down. So in order to continue, I have to keep the videos off. So it's still not effective, and it's quite boring beyond a point. So the new normal is, people need to now understand how do they work. They have to plan their work in such a way which is going to make it efficient and productive, and not rather make you, pull you down. But for certain segment of people, it is really helpful. Example, I'll say, especially with a woman, it has given that platform of getting that equality. Simply because if you say, if you, earlier women have to, the way how a woman has been represented, especially a working mom, she will have to manage children, home, and then go to office. And so the company, she has always faced the brunt of not getting promotions, because she cannot dedicate her time, and so many other reasons. But today, given the flexibility to work from home, she is able to balance. So that's an equality that we have achieved, and the future is going to be the way how every organization has to adapt to make the work culture highly efficient and not just sit on calls. What they don't seem to understand is, the more you make them, every employee sit on calls for so many hours, you're making them lose their productivity and efficiency. It's not efficient, because I'm not going to deliver a quality kind of the job that is expected of me. I'm going to become average or below average, and that mediocrity shouldn't thrive. So that is
Okay.
what we have to eliminate.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. So I think one question that my wife wanted to get you, and I mean, she wanted you to answer this for her, basically, which is how should women position themselves for leadership roles, and what initiatives they should take to reach such positions? So I think you brought this interesting angle of it has helped women cut down on the travel time, and they have so many balls to juggle, the family, the kids, and the job itself, that at times their own progression in the company takes a beating. So, what's your experience in terms of what's your advice for women who want to position themselves into leadership positions? She actually works as a security consultant for Wipro, so she
Okay.
wanted me to ask this.
Okay, very interesting question. And this is one thing that like I said, the pandemic has done one very good thing, is made women get an equal place for all opportunities, especially in the leadership roles. So today, nobody can say that, oh, you have to give up your family, or you have to work, you have to take care of your family, so you cannot take this role. That is no more a reason. And if there is any reason for somebody not doing it, I will only blame the women themselves. Look, you need to step up now and say, okay, I want to do this. Go achieve what you want. Today we have infrastructure which is available, where you are able to manage, you can get a support, because if your children are working from home, then you are also there some time to monitor them, and you can also have a help to take care. So that's a very good option. And most important, you can also get, like, there are a lot of people who need jobs, so people are willing to come and cook, they are going to be your nannies, all that is available at your doorstep. So for you to step up to taking a leadership role, it is, nobody else can stop you except you yourself. So you have to now get up and take the baton in your hands and go conquer what you want. I always tell the women one very important lesson. See, there is nobody who should, nobody have to give you. There is no one to give you. It is you who have to go take your rightful position yourself. And
Perfect.
if you believe that is my position, go claim it, go take it. Why should somebody give you? Why are you saying that I didn't get it? Go take it. No, who's stopping you? So you need to also make sure that you are bringing that value to the table. What is the value that you're bringing? And be very clear about it. Why? And there is no one to say no, she's not worth it or he's not worth it. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. As long as you have the conviction, no, I am capable, I'm very good in this role, go and do it.
Yeah,
See,
yeah,
it's okay. Look, sometimes it so happens in certain organizations or certain teams, you might not get recognized. Doesn't mean that's the limiting factor or that's the limitation. Like I gave my own example. Yes, subconsciously we tend to accept what is negatively told about us. That is the point where you have to break. So what I broke with myself is the fear factor that I don't know. You cannot know everything. You have to be good in something, leverage on your strengths. And second most important lesson for you to understand is we don't have to go by what people say about us, be it good or bad. It's their individual opinion. Opinions do not determine who you are. So that's a very important element to drill in your within ourselves. So we have to be very clear. Just because say somebody is praising me doesn't mean I am great, or somebody is insulting me doesn't mean I am bad. Both is just a perception or a judgment of another individual's mind. So nobody can determine how good I am or how bad I am except me myself. But
perfect.
most important is we all have certain positives and our areas of development. I wouldn't even say it's a negative. The word negative itself you have to remove out of our dictionary. It is the areas of development, so you have to constantly keep bettering yourself. So most important is you have to become the better version of yourself. We are not here in a comparison. You can't compare another person to you. So be the best and be the better version of yourself.
Perfect. I think that's really some solid advice there, Rashi. And one last question, I think in your blog, also on the tech chutzpah, you talk about the spiritual side of yourself, which leads to a lot of other blogs. So, how much of it has of that aspect has helped you balance your work-life aspects, and how does one balance the other, or how should know one's purpose in life, and how that can really balance your career and your work perspective also. So that'll be interesting to end on that note. And also
Sure.
about your perceptor that you talk about as being your mentor. Can you just explain about that?
Okay, so my preceptor's name is Krishna Guruji. So I know him since 1995 as an individual, but as a guru, I he found me rather in 2009. I met him as my guru only in 2009, but I know him as an individual since 1995. So that's just a background, but we can take that offline. But coming back, to be to answer your question, my spiritual strength is the only thing that has enabled me to be who I am today in my world. That's the under 100% of the foundation. And balancing both is not easy, but over a period of time I have learned to manage that well. In the sense, what you learn in your spiritual world, it's not about spirituality doesn't mean you become an ascetic. So this is a misconception people have. Spirituality tells you, look, I am not this body, I am the spirit. I am this divine within myself. I have all the God given capabilities and the hidden potentials. I need to unravel the strength for doing, for serving my purpose in this world as this human being, and not limiting. Or like I said, that the last message that I gave about was equanimity of mind, which is not to get swayed between the pairs of opposites of good and bad, right and wrong. We as human being fall for this, and then what happens is the moment you fall for either your praises or somebody insulting you, we dwell on that and lose the mind space and not being productive in our own life. We get carried away, in such petty things. So the spiritual strength enables one not to fall for these things. When you understand the realities of life, everybody's talking through their mind. And this was a hard lesson I learned. An example I will give you back many years ago. When I was in IBM, I was, my goal was like in school, you want to come first. Similarly, even at work, my rating, I wanted to get A, number one, or one plus. That was my aspiration. So you want to be the top, you want to be the best, so you go after that. But later, much later in life, I understood whatever the rating comes is determined based on my manager. It's not about based on what I perform. Yeah, that is to a certain extent, but since if I'm not very nice with my manager, pally, many a time people go by that, right? They have certain likes, and that's the way the world is driven. So the whole rating system itself is biased. So then I said, oh my god, it was like my pink color glasses broke at that moment in time. And then I realized this rating system itself shouldn't exist, because there's no meaning to what you perform. Your performance has nothing to do with the rating that you're going to get. And that is when I stopped running behind ratings. I stopped running behind these awards and recognitions. And the day I stopped this, I found my freedom. I became fearless in life because I was not seeking anything. The most
Correct.
important strength that anyone can have is to be fearless. Why should you fear? When you are doing your job, very sincerely, and when you're giving whatever that output that is required of you, you don't have to fear anything. And if you don't know, please go learn. There is no harm in sometimes saying, yes, I don't know, but you have to make an effort to learn. You might not be master of all subjects, but you should have the knowledge about the subject. That is what is important, and you have to constantly develop yourself with the right knowledge. And when you do this, there's nothing to fear in this world.
Perfect. I think that was wonderful, Rajshri. So thank you very much for sharing your knowledge and the wisdom here. So wishing you all the best, and definitely we'll be in touch for further such talks from you. And here is thanking you from the bottom of my heart for your time that you spent on this series. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kiran. Thank you, everyone. It's Thank you for this wonderful opportunity, and I hope it's made some impact for those who really want some answers. Thank you for this opportunity.
Surely. Sure. Thanks. Thanks a lot.